Project New Kuwait, with its strategic focus on international connectivity and trade, aims to position the country as a key player in the global economy. This vision is part of Kuwait's broader ambition under Vision 2035 to transform into a global business and financial hub. Central to this vision is the enhancement of international connectivity, fostering robust trade relations and creating an environment conducive to business and investment. Improving international connectivity is a multifaceted endeavor. Kuwait is working on expanding and upgrading its transportation infrastructure, including airports, seaports, and road networks. These developments are designed to facilitate smoother and more efficient movement of goods and people, making Kuwait a more attractive destination for business and tourism. The expansion of Kuwait International Airport and the development of new ports are examples of this focus, aimed at increasing the country's capacity to handle international trade and passenger traffic. Fostering trade relations is another key aspect of this pillar. Kuwait is actively seeking to strengthen its trade ties with countries around the world. This involves not only expanding its export markets, but also diversifying its import sources. The country is engaging in bilateral and multilateral trade agreements to reduce trade barriers and create more opportunities for its businesses. Efforts are also being made to participate more actively in international trade organizations and forums, enhancing Kuwait's visibility and influence in the global trade arena. Enhancing the ease of doing business is crucial in attracting foreign direct investment and encouraging the growth of local enterprises. Kuwait is streamlining business processes, simplifying regulatory procedures, and offering incentives to businesses. There is a focus on creating a more transparent and efficient business environment, reducing red tape, and providing support and guidance to businesses looking to establish or expand their operations in Kuwait. Digital connectivity is also a vital component of this strategy. The country is investing in digital infrastructure and technology to facilitate better connectivity and more efficient business operations. This includes the development of e-government services, digital platforms for trade and commerce, and the adoption of new technologies in the business sector. Furthermore, Kuwait is leveraging its strategic geographic location to become a regional hub for trade and commerce. The country is well positioned as a gateway between Asia, Africa, and Europe, and efforts are being made to capitalize on this advantage. This includes developing logistics and warehousing facilities and creating special economic zones that offer attractive terms for businesses. Attracting international talent and expertise is also part of Kuwait's strategy to enhance its global connectivity. The country recognizes the value of having a diverse and skilled workforce and is working to create an environment that is welcoming to expatriates and international professionals. The international connectivity and trade pillar of Project New Kuwait is vital for the country's transformation into a global business and financial hub. By improving transportation and digital infrastructure, fostering trade relations, simplifying business processes, and leveraging its strategic location, Kuwait aims to enhance its role in the global economy and create new opportunities for growth and development. This approach is integral to achieving the goals of economic diversification and long-term prosperity as envisioned in Kuwait's Vision 2035.
Hello and welcome, dear viewers, to our program New Kuwait. In this program, we talk about our national development plan, from rules, economy, and many other subjects. In today's episode, we will talk about rules and regulations with our special guest, law expert, Mr. Sultan Alshimali. Hello and welcome, Mr. Sultan.
Thank you, Mr. Saad, and thank you for having me.
You are most welcome. It's always a pleasure to have you here in the show. As you know, I'm sure you are familiar with our show, how to talk about. There is something really important to our viewers. As you know, a lot of our viewers they are visiting Kuwait, they are from expat, they're working here in Kuwait. So in terms of laws and rules, what to expect?
Of course, we need to shed light about the expats here in Kuwait. These expats resemble 70% of the population here in Kuwait, 30 of which are Kuwaitis, 70 of which are expats here residing, working, family here in Kuwait. So regarding to the healthcare and regarding to even if they're gonna rent a place or an accommodation or an apartment or a house, there's also laws that protect the expat here in Kuwait. Many of the expats here in Kuwait think that because he's a Kuwaiti, he's a citizen here, the law automatically shifts within his favor. That's in the contrary. He could look into the Kuwaiti law. They specifically protect his rights even if he had an accommodation.
Where to look in the Kuwaiti law? You said if they want to know their right, where should they go?
Many of those laws are translated in English language, Mr.
They can
Saad.
find them online?
They can find it online. They could as easily type rent law on Google, the Kuwaiti rent law. They could easily type the Kuwaiti labor law here in Kuwait. They could easily type the direct investment for foreigners here in Kuwait. Everything, almost everything that has to do with the expats is translated in English. Some of those laws are actually translated into Hindi, into Paki, into Urdu, into French. So there's many facilities for an expat here in Kuwait. And they just have to enter that search button within Google.
By saying that, you think the expat, they are protected by the Kuwaiti law, so they are living a good life here in Kuwait? Because as you said, 70% of workers here in Kuwait are foreigners, because we are a small population, maybe 1.5 million. We will reach 2 million soon, but we have 6 million here in Kuwait. So they are actually more than Kuwaiti. They need to be protected and feel the good life here in Kuwait.
Of course, exactly. And I will give you an example. The other day I had a case where an expat, he came into my office and he was complaining that he was renting this place and he spent a huge amount of money just to make innovations within that apartment. So he told me that I've been staying there and I like the place and my family is there. My civil ID is within this place. My kids go to the same school, which is next to my apartment. And the owner of this accommodation, for any reason, decided that he has to leave that place. And he came to him and he told him, listen, you're an expat, you have to leave this place. I'm gonna be using this apartment. My son wants to live in that apartment.
So it's in a private house?
In a private house,
yes.
But the house is divided into apartments.
Yes.
And he's been living in that apartment for 1 year. Now, let's reinstate Mr. Saad. He has his kids going to the same school in that.
But they have an agreement.
They have a written agreement, and I'll explain. So he told me, obviously, I'm gonna have to take my things and pack and leave, and I cannot find anything that's suitable within the rent. That rent, what he was been charging for, is suitable for him as a price on a monthly basis, and he likes the accommodation, he likes the area, everything that fits him.
What does he want from you? To make him go back to the apartment?
He wants to stay in that apartment. I told him, did you pay this month's rent? He told me, I did pay this month's rent, and it's only the 3rd of March. So Mr. Saad, the rent law is very easy and it's very straightforward. The rent law specifically states that even as an expat, you have 5 years to stay in that accommodation. He doesn't have the right to evacuate you as long as you pay your monthly basis, your monthly rent within time. Then he doesn't have any right to evacuate you from that accommodation.
The owner, after the 5 years, they can tell them that we are done, we are not on agreement, you can leave.
It doesn't even have to be in that matter. It has to be officially. If that owner wants to evacuate you,
they don't have a
no, he has to file a notice in court that says after at least 2 months in prior. So, for example, it's been 4 years and 8 months. So there's still 4 more months for that 5-year term to end. So he has to notify them within the second month, which we would say October. So there's still remaining 2 more months for that rent year to terminate.
Yes.
So he has to notify them. If he didn't notify him that he wishes this rentee to evacuate this accommodation, then this 5 years is reinstated for another 5 years. You understand, Mr. Saad?
Yes.
So it's renewable. This
Renewable.
contract law is renewable, even if it's not stated within the contract, because at the end of the day, what's implemented is the rent law of 24 clauses of the Kuwaiti rent law.
And this case is easy to solve, but by telling the owner that this is agreement to take the people who are renting this apartment, and he will go back and just say accept it.
He could ignore him. He would say that I still have 4 more years. Whoever is owner of that accommodation,
And they just ignore them.
and ignore him. And but
This
some
is-
of those owners of those accommodation who have malpractices, malintentions, what they do is that they refrain from collecting the rent. So as soon as they refrain from the collecting of rent, they do that with the specific intention is to deprive you from paying that rent.
Oh,
So
okay.
at the end of the day, he would go to court and would say this rentee have refused to pay the rent. So now he have created a solution for him,
Which
for
is a devious plan, but effective, right?
effective, because in other hands, you should have, if he refrained from collecting his rent, then you could go to the court, whichever province it is. So say, for example, you're in Salwa, you would go to Hawali court and you would deposit that rent within Idarat al-Tanfidh. It is called Idarat al-Tanfidh. And you pay that rent in Idarat al-Tanfidh.
To give them to the person.
And that person would go ahead and collect the rent in Hawali court.
Well,
So according to the province, Mr. Saad, this way you have protected yourself from being evacuated.
Yes.
Project New Kuwait, a vital component of the nation's Vision 2035, opens up a realm of investment opportunities in various non-oil sectors. This strategic initiative aims to diversify Kuwait's economy beyond its traditional oil base, creating a more sustainable and resilient economic landscape. The technology sector is emerging as a key area for investment. Kuwait is focusing on developing a vibrant tech ecosystem, encouraging innovation and entrepreneurship. Investment in technology parks, incubators, and startups is being prioritized, offering ample opportunities for investors interested in cutting-edge technologies and digital transformation. The renewable energy sector, particularly solar and wind energy, presents another promising area for investment. With Kuwait's abundant sunlight, the solar energy sector is ripe for development. Investments in renewable energy infrastructure, technology, and research are encouraged, aligning with global trends towards sustainable energy solutions. Kuwait's healthcare sector is undergoing significant transformation, creating numerous investment opportunities. The government is investing in building new hospitals and clinics, upgrading existing healthcare facilities, and integrating technology in healthcare services. This opens up avenues for investment in healthcare infrastructure, medical technology, and pharmaceuticals. Tourism and hospitality is another sector with growing investment potential. Kuwait is working on enhancing its tourism infrastructure, including the development of hotels, resorts, cultural attractions, and entertainment facilities. This sector offers opportunities for investment in tourism infrastructure, travel services, and cultural projects. The education sector in Kuwait is also seeing reforms, opening doors for investments in educational institutions, e-learning platforms, and educational technology. Opportunities exist in building educational infrastructure, providing training and development programs, and developing innovative educational content and technology. Real estate and urban development are central to Kuwait's diversification efforts. Investment opportunities abound in residential, commercial, and industrial real estate development, as well as in infrastructure projects such as transportation networks and urban planning. The financial services sector in Kuwait is another area ripe for investment. As Kuwait works to establish itself as a regional financial hub, there are opportunities in banking, fintech, insurance, and capital markets. Investments that support the modernization and expansion of Kuwait's financial services sector are particularly encouraged. Kuwait's focus on enhancing its retail sector, especially through the development of shopping malls, retail parks, and e commerce platforms, offers additional investment opportunities. The retail sector's expansion is aligned with the increasing consumer demand and the growing youth population. Project New Kuwait provides a broad spectrum of investment opportunities in the non oil sectors, from technology and renewable energy to healthcare, tourism, education, real estate, financial services, and retail. These opportunities are part of Kuwait's strategic plan to diversify its economy, reduce dependency on oil, and pave the way for sustainable economic growth and development. Investors looking to capitalize on these opportunities will find a welcoming environment, supported by government initiatives and reforms aimed at fostering investment and innovation.
So is that we have a housing problem here in Kuwait? Because I heard that a lot of expats they live in apartments inside Kuwaiti houses. Do we have a problem of housing expat here in Kuwait?
We don't have any problems. Actually, it is only as easy as a contract drafted with the owner of that accommodation, whether it's a house, an apartment, a building.
And this problem can happen even between Kuwaitis, right?
Of course.
Yes, this is not strange to Kuwaitis because we have a lot of people, they have problems. They said, this is for my son, as you said, and
Exactly.
now I'm sorry I have to take, which is something sad, but actually happening here in Kuwait.
Exactly.
So for expat here, working here in Kuwait, let's talk about the working place for them. What to expect when they come here in Kuwait and they work here in Kuwait?
Okay, I just want to mention one last
Yes, please.
point, Mr. Saad. Just keep in mind, you're considered to be late if you don't pay the rent after the 20th of any given month. For example, we're in the date of 3rd of March or the 4th of March. I have to pay my rent until the 20th. If it's 21st of this month and I still didn't pay, then I'm considered to be late. And he could go ahead and file a case. Even if you paid on the 21st, it's only 1 day difference between the 20th and 21st, Mr. Saad. But if you don't pay in the 21st, you're considered to be late, and he has the full power to exercise and evacuate you from.
So
this
if the
accommodation.
owner refused to take the payment, you can go to the, as you said, if it's in Salwa, you go to Hawali court
Exactly.
and they pay before the 20th.
Exactly. It
This
has
is
to
what-
be before the 20th.
Yes,
Exactly.
this is something very important to our viewers. And now let's switch to the working place here in Kuwait. We have a lot of expats. We cannot do here in Kuwait without expats. You can see them all over the streets of Kuwait. They are walking, and we appreciate their services here in Kuwait, especially from Arabian countries. We have from Asian countries. Do you think Kuwait protect these people working here in Kuwait?
Of course, I for one appreciate their services here in Kuwait. They're dated back until the production of oil, Mr. Saad.
Yes.
So their existence here and working within the Kuwaiti labor force is of a huge advantage to the Kuwaiti economy and to me and to you, Mr.
Of course,
Saad.
yes.
And this is why the legislation and the National Assembly within their legislations and the ministries have all understood the importance of the expats workforce here in
Yes.
Kuwait.
Yes, we
They
saw.
resemble a 70% of the private sector as itself.
Yes.
So toppling that percentage would take us to the Stone Ages, I would say, Mr. Saad.
Yes, of course.
So there are many regulations that protect the labor rights for that expat, and many of the examples they would come into me to my office and they would say that this is a Kuwaiti employer. He is powerful. He has connections. He have wasta. But this is the contrary, Mr. Saad. This is not true. They have the full right to exercise in the beginning.
Yes.
And they could ask for their full rights within the labor law spectrum, starting with indemnity, starting with their sick leaves, starting with their extra working hours. They could ask for the whole package if they don't get it in the first place.
Yes, of course. The Ministry of Education, I think, and especially the Ministry of Health, we have a lot of expats. You can go to any given hospital. You can find from nurses, doctors, technicians. They all from outside of Kuwait. Unfortunately, we have some doctors, we have nurses or Kuwaitis. But these two ministries, I think we appreciate that we have a lot of expats, and we, through our program New Kuwait, we hope that this law of Kuwait protect them. And from what can I see, they are happy, they are living, they love to live here in Kuwait. They said Kuwait is our country. So to go from inviting people from our viewers from KTV2, we want to tell them what to expect in terms of protecting yourself here in Kuwait. What do you, from having the bank account, from living in an apartment, as you said, what else do you have?
Of course, starting from the back, as an expat who comes first here in Kuwait, their employer is expected to provide them with health insurance, which is a 50 KD deposited in Shu'un, manpower, and this is a coverage for their health needs. If they go to the hospital, they have to pay for their stay in the hospital, may God forbid, their medication. This is all covered within the health insurance. Second of all, they're expected to have a bank account open for them, which their salary is supposedly deposited into that bank account. If they don't have a bank account, then they could even go ahead and say that
Do they choose the bank, or the employer tell them that this is your account?
They could choose the bank. It's not something that has to be strictly chosen for, whether it's from the employee or the employer. So they have to have a bank account. They have to have a health insurance, and it is strictly abided by the employer. It's not something that he could, it's not in his hands, Mr. Saad.
Yes. Is there a difference between working in the public sector and private sector? As you know, private sector, they value, let's say that the expats, they value for them because they need the professional hands.
Exactly.
Is there a difference between the public sector and private sector, in your opinion?
I wouldn't say there is a much difference, because it's, at the end of the day, it's the same labor law. If there's any difficulties, if there's any claims that they would want, their late wages, their health care, they would go to the same court.
Laws.
Yeah, the same court.
Yes.
It's called the labor court, which is in Arabic would say الدائرة العمالية.
Yes, but they are protecting in the same laws.
Exactly.
They will not differentiate between private
Mr.
sector.
Saad, one of the cases that I've handled, the employer have brought in this employee and he told him, okay, say for example his name is Mike.
And private sector.
In private sector.
Yes.
And Mike, he wanted to change his job title, he wanted to change his company, and he wanted to change to another company where he had a better offer. And his employer told him that, no, I will not give you a transfer to this company.
They have the right to
only
do that?
if you sign a paper that says that you've been collecting all of your wages. But in fact, he haven't been collecting 3 months' salaries.
Why they ask them for
because
that?
he wants, with bad intentions, to deprive him from paying his salaries. His salaries amounted to more than 2,000 KD. So he said, because this employer wishes to change to a different company, I think it would be better for me to force him or exploit this necessity and deprive him from paying 3 months' salaries. And he did sign this paper. He signed a paper that he did collect that money. But when he got the transfer and he got set within the new company, he came to me and he told me, I feel like I've been exploited. I haven't been collecting the 3 months, and I worked for those 3 months.
But he signed anyway.
He signed, but in court, we filed this case, and alhamdulillah, the court verdict found that he has to pay these 3 months, because it's only 2 ways for that employer to protect himself, and would actually say that I actually paid that money. This paper is not admissible in court. The only 2 reasons that could be admissible is he had a bank transfer, a bank statement, the bank would never lie, or a check. And neither of those 2 statements have been provided in court. So the judge found that this employer actually exploited my client, and he forced him into paying those 3 salaries.
So for someone to go to a lawyer, like this example you just gave about the guy who called Mike, he came after signing the paper, which is, to some people they say, well, it's too late, I already signed. So it's not a problem to seek law to correct what people with bad intention take your money. So when for someone to go to a lawyer, if they feel like cheated, if they read the rules and they say this is not apply on me, there's something wrong.
It's not a question of when to go to a lawyer. It's a question within the time limit. every labor case, whether it's a sick leave, whether it's an indemnity,
Yes.
whether it's wages that haven't been paid, as soon as you finish the workforce, your job, and you have transferred to a different job, then you only have 1 year to file that case.
1 year.
If you surpass this 1 year, then you have forfeited your entitlements.
1 year is a good amount of time, I think.
Exactly.
Yes.
But I've seen people who come to me after 10 years. They say, I've been working in that company
is too much,
for
yeah.
another 20 years.
Yes.
But you forfeited your right within the first year of you leaving that work.
Yes, indeed, valuable and informative information from you, Mr. Sultan. Thank you so much for coming to
Thank
the
you,
show.
Mr. Saad.
You are most welcome. That was lawyer Sultan alshimali, and with that we conclude our episode. See you.